James Lupton, delighted to be joined on Zoom today with Ziyad Almaayouf. How are we doing, Ziyad?
All good, all good. It's good to speak to you again.
Thank
This
you very
time
much.
with a win and chasing another one.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming back on the show. And like you say, with a win, last time we spoke was before your professional debut on a massive card. Alexander Usyk, Anthony Joshua. Um, First of all, just tell me about the experience and before the fight. So, how were your nerves? How were you handling and coping with any pressure with this big card? The crowd coming into the arena, the whole buzz around fight week as well, and the night has come for your professional debut. What was it like?
It was great. Honestly, it was much larger and much better than I even expected, which is a dream. I was expecting a dream, and what happened was my dreams were just turned into a reality there and then. The pressure was on. I'm not gonna lie, the pressure was on. I felt the pressure, but I really had to use that pressure to work for me and not let it work against me. And I thought I would get a lot more worried or a lot more or feel the pressure in the locker room. But the locker room was so great. Having Coach Buddy in there and having Rachel and Paul Smith and all those, I have a very good team around me that the locker room was all jokes and fun. And when I have a coach that's so experienced and that's been there, he just knew exactly the emotions I was going through and he knew exactly what I would feel. And I had two of my best friends with me in the locker room, two people I grew up with, and they know me just like my family. And it was good to have them there because it was just another day at the office. As soon as I stepped foot outside of the locker room, something happened and I got a huge boost of confidence. I had a huge boost of confidence, like this is the moment you've been dreaming for since you were a kid, since you were a baby, talking to your mother about this, talking to your father about this, talking to all the people who didn't believe in you, but you believed in yourself and you kept talking about it and saying it. I got all those emotions started rushing in, and I just said, this is the moment. This is how I want to live it. And I've been visualizing the moment all week. So it's just time to go through the motions now, not to really let it get over my head. And I did just that, and it was beautiful. I loved it. I took in a moment, closed my eyes, and I drank it all in. And now it's over, and I look forward to the next one.
You mentioned obviously Coach Buddy, that's Buddy McGirt. He was in the dressing room and he's been there as a fighter and as a coach at a top level on the big stage, former world champion, as a fighter and a coach, again, like I say. To have that experience and that knowledge and somebody who's able to keep his composure in those surroundings, how much did that help you keep your composure?
It helped me immensely. It was exactly what I needed in the locker room, and more so than what I even needed in the locker room, it was what I needed during the fight. And I knew I've been working with my mental performance coach on not letting a knockdown uh, or a big punch get to me. If I land a big punch on my opponent or if I knock him down and he gets up, not to let it get to me and I go all crazy after. So these are all stuff that we work on. But then having such a calm and composed coach, after I knocked my opponent down the first time, I looked at him. I looked in the corner because naturally that's what a fighter is going to do. And there wasn't a smirk, there wasn't a smile, there wasn't a single clap that came from Coach Buddy. And that energy gave off to me. And I knew that, okay, I just knocked my opponent down, but nothing's changed. He's got back up. And now I just have to stick to the game plan, go back to my motions and my jab and my boxing, rather than maybe a fighter on his debut in front of such a huge crowd. If he'd knocked down the opponent, because you had to hear the crowd in Saudi Arabia, they were roaring, and I like to get the crowd going as well. So after I knocked them down, I interacted with the crowd and the arena was screaming, so but when I looked at Coach Buddy, no, it's just another knockdown, another guy who's got back up after he's knocked down. Nothing's changed. The plan is what it is. And I went and did just that. I just stayed focused, stayed composed, and then go crazy, where we all know in professional boxing, a hurt fighter is a dangerous fighter.
Absolutely. So I want to touch on something you mentioned there. Was it a mental performance coach?
Yeah, mental performance
Just
coach.
tell me what that is what this role is and what that does for yourself as a fighter.
So his role, honestly, he's one of the most important coaches on my team. He's from Egypt. His name is Coach Haytham. And what a mental performance coach does is he works on your reaction time. He works on your problem solving, your patience. And while you're going through these motions and lectures, you also deal with fears, doubts, and worries that you can have that would come up during camp or even during the fight and fight week, especially. So when we start camp, we start sessions where it's just really a weekly lecture and a daily follow-up. But the weekly lecture is on how to deal with your fears if you have any, doubts if you have any, and worries if you have any. And we don't wait for them to come. We just work on all those stuff. And then aside from all that, we do some mental performance exercises, like eye hand coordination exercises, or reaction time, problem solving, and the patience when it comes to, for example, if we're running on a treadmill, we're not just running on a treadmill normally, we're running on a treadmill while playing Sudoku, the game, and it's timed, and you have to run and also work on your problem solving. And after that, you have to work on how fast your problem solving is going to be. And all that transforms into your sparring and your fight. If you see an opening, how fast are you going to take it? And if you can't see an opening, how patient are you going to be? And if there is no opening after being patient, how are you going to problem solve and make the opening yourself? All this transfers into the fight, and it's a good thing to have, because I feel like I'm a step ahead of my opponents and many athletes in my field, having a mental performance coach who, especially one from a country that my mother is from, so he understands my reasons, my culture, my upbringing.
I mean, first thing I'm going to say is a Sudoku on a treadmill. It sounds like it makes boxing easy.
Exactly. Exactly. So that's just a few of the very big exercises that give me big headaches.
Absolutely. Talk to me a little bit about the the knockdown. So you mentioned you got yourself composed quickly after looking at Coach Buddy, but it was almost a punch perfect performance for your debut. The early stoppage. Not a lot more you could have wanted from that, really, apart from maybe it to last a little bit longer.
Yeah. I mean, it was a good experience, and it was a huge privilege to be on such a big card. And as I always say, that Saudi Arabia is right now just moving very quickly, and I'm so happy to take part in that, fastest growing economy in the world right now, part of Vision 2030, and just for His Royal Highness Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman to give me that trust, and His Royal Highness Prince Abdulaziz bin Turki Al Faisal, Minister of Sports, to give me that trust and empower that youth. And I want to represent that, and I am representing that. I feel like after that debut, especially now, many people would think that the pressure now is going to go down a little bit, but the pressure is only getting harder. The pressure is only getting a lot higher, but we are getting a lot better, and that's the good thing. um After that knockdown, I remember you because you asked about that. The knockdown is something that I visualized in my head, me and my mental performance coach, many times during fight week. And what visualization does is it puts you in situations before you are actually physically put in the situation. So in my hotel room during fight week, for example, I'd have all the lights turned off, and then we would search on YouTube stadium crowd chants, and then I would visualize that I'm in the stadium, because it was a worry for me how many people are going to turn up, and how the first time I'm going to taste 8-ounce gloves in front of so many people, and a lot is at stake. So we had to visualize, so I'm actually there before I'm really there. So when I knocked him down, and when he got up, that wasn't the first time I've knocked someone down in a professional fight. That was maybe the 400th time, because I've done it so many times in my head. So when it happened in real life, nothing's changed. I've been there. I've knocked my opponent down. He's gotten back up. He's knocked me down. I've gotten back up. I've won. I've lost. I've all that stuff. I've given fight interviews where I've won, fight interviews where I've lost. I've done it all. I've visualized it all. And you have to visualize both results so you don't get shocked when one comes. And that's what we did. So it was a perfect fight to be in that lasted only a few minutes, but with the hype that was around the fight and the hype that was around not only the first internationally professional boxer from Saudi Arabia, but the first really empowering athlete from Saudi Arabia as a whole. And I said this and I'll say it again, I want to be the most successful individual athlete to come out of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, because while doing that, you have an educated athlete that could speak both languages, that it has a westernized mindset that could change the perception of people abroad and their views on Saudi Arabia and the people of Saudi Arabia. And this is what we need in Saudi Arabia, and this is what I want to present. And this is what I do represent right now, because people hear a lot about the country, but they've never went there and they've never met their people, and then they misjudge. But once you see one of us on TV doing it with charisma, he can sing, he can fight, he can dance, he can talk. You know, you're gonna start thinking, oh wait, maybe they are human after all. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And you touched on a good point there. And I wanted to come on to this. It's a very serious side of this, the most serious question you'll get today, I suppose. With Saudi Arabia, obviously, it's a nation that's very close to your heart, it's to your roots there. And with that event, especially, a lot of people said, or the topic was cropped up as sport washing. Now, a lot of people, for me, you've got to respect wherever you go, whether it be on a holiday or somewhere, you've got to respect that country's laws and abide by those laws. You're in that country.
Yeah.
People don't agree with those, and that's people's opinion. But do you feel it's unfair criticism of Saudi Arabia when people make such a big story of the sport washing?
It's unfair to Saudi Arabia, the misjudgment that Saudi Arabia gets, but it's nothing that Saudi Arabia didn't expect and is ready to deal with. But it's not only unfair to Saudi Arabia, it's also unfair to the people misjudging, because you get to miss out on just exploring new cultures, exploring new kinds of peoples, and the languages and the way of life, you know. So why not enter a different space with like a different mindset, a specific mindset where be more accepting to not only the way people are, but what they come with, because they are accept because you want to expect the same thing back. And when Saudis or Arabs, when they travel abroad, they don't really force themselves on anyone. And this is just how it should be in the world. But in terms of the misjudging in Saudi Arabia, as I said, it's nothing that Saudi Arabia is not understanding of. It's nothing that Saudi Arabia isn't expecting and is ready to deal with in a timely and patient manner, where first you have to come and see. But the sport washing, or even the whole idea about event washing and all that, I don't I don't get how people are complaining about that, because if you think about it from the cup being half full and not half empty, when you go to a specific place and it's a different place you've never been to, but you have a key area or a key thing that you have been to before and you feel comfortable in, which is a sporting event. For example, when Formula One is hosted in Saudi Arabia, if it's your first time going to Saudi Arabia, it's naturally to be worried and a little shaky about going. But then when you know that you've been to a Formula One before, or you've been comfortable with watching and knowing about Formula One, you're gonna be like, well, whatever happens, at least I'm gonna be in a sport or in an event where I know so much about. And boxing, same thing. If it's your first time in Saudi Arabia, first time being there, dealing with the people there, at least you've been to a boxing fight before. You're a huge fan of boxing. You know the in and outs of boxing. You feel comfortable at a boxing event. So Saudi Arabia is presenting a key place of comfort to people who are entering a very uncomfortable place for them at that time. And then it always happens, and it happens at the World Cup. It happened at the World Cup with Qatar. So many people spoke, so many people said a lot of things, but then once they went, it was different. The people there were saying different stuff, and after they left, the perspectives changed. So this is all expected. And as humans, we have to expect, you know, for people to be scared of stuff they don't understand. People fear what they don't understand, and that's okay. But just learn as a person to give yourself time and give yourself the acceptance and patience to just discover new places. It's okay to feel uncomfortable. It's natural. It's gonna happen. But you're presented with an opportunity where you have a sporting event or a big event as a whole where you're going to feel comfortable there, why complain about it when it's for you, it's for your advantage, you know?
Absolutely. Yourself, you grew up, you spent a long time in America, so you've seen a different culture, different laws, for example. Do you understand why some people were skeptical about the sport washing?
um of course I do, because you know it's in the culture. A big part of the culture in America is sports, and so it's very natural and it's very usual for people wanting the sporting events to be close to them, and where they've grew up watching sports and having it in their culture. But then if you don't discover new places and new people and just get yourself outside of your comfort zone, how are we supposed to grow and learn more about each other and the world and be more accepting of each other if we don't interact with each other? So this is much larger than sports. This is much bigger than sports. What Saudi Arabia is doing with boxing in Saudi right now is bigger than sports. So don't only view it as sports, view it as a part of accepting others and interacting with others, where we are going to have an understanding of each other more. And that's what I want to represent. This is what I want to do. What I'm doing in the sport right now for Saudi Arabia is bigger than just Saudi Arabia and boxing. It's for people to change their perceptions and to finally, not only, you don't have to directly and physically interact with me, but I want to give the people some sort of link to me where I'm exposed on the big cards, the big shows, the TVs, and I'm willing to deal with that pressure, and I'm willing to deal with the heavy nights of doubts that it comes with, only if it means that it's going to make us a better place and make us as people just better people. You know, I'm, like you said, I've been around to many camps. I was raised in the US, and I moved around as a child, so I had to adapt. I had to adapt, and I have to be accepting to adapting to people when treating someone different or talking to someone different than I am. You know, in the US, I have to eat what you eat, drink what you drink, and I have to talk the way you talk and all that. Same thing in the UK. I have to do the same stuff. So if I try to live my life, but in another place where they don't live that same life, I'm going to face a lot of complications. Now, if you're okay with that, then you have to be accepting to it, but don't complain. But once you start complaining, that's where it goes wrong. But to each their own, you know, whatever is comfortable with anyone, do it. There are 7 billion people in the world right now, you know, so people are always going to talk. People are going to have as many negatives to say as much as the positives, and we have to be accepting as that to people. And I'm accepting to that. I'm willing to overcome and go through whatever is going to be thrown at me, just to hopefully hopefully change the perception, not only on me as a Saudi fighter and an Arab fighter, but the Arab world and Saudi Arabia as a whole.
Back to the boxing. Next fight. It seems like you don't do small cards or small shows at all. Your next fight, second professional fight on the undercard of Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury. Again, massive card. How does it feel to be on another huge show?
Honestly, I just want to say I'm very blessed. I'm very humbled, and not one night goes by where I don't think about the other people who would be given those opportunities and what they would do with it. And when I think about the other children or the other athletes who, if they were given these opportunities, what they would do with it, I want to outwork them already. I want to outwork the people who would work more than me if they were given that same opportunity. So I'm very blessed. I'm very thankful to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I'm very thankful to the Minister of Sports, Prince Abdulaziz bin Turki Al Faisal. I'm thankful to His Royal Highness Crown Prince Hamad bin Salman for his empowerment and his trust in the youth and their athletes, and his trust in me to empower that 2030 vision. I'm very blessed and thankful for that. And it's just a huge card to be on. And it's a great card to be on, and it's great exposure, you know, because of the general fans and the many eyes that tune into that fight, you know. And it's just a huge platform to, like I said, represent more than just boxing. I'm representing more than just boxing that night. And I love that pressure. I love that. I love these emotions that come with it, because it makes me and it pushes me to perform. And that's what I'm here to do. At the end of the day, people are going to remember your performance. And it's a good platform to perform not only in the ring, but outside of the ring. And I'm ready for it. Maybe I'm not ready right now in the first few weeks of camp, but I'm confident in the process, and I trust the process that when fight night comes, I will be ready, and I'm willing to go through the downhills just as much as the uphills. So it's a good place to be. It's a good fight to be on, and I'm ready for it.
The last question, Zizo. So you mentioned that you're a couple of weeks into camp now. You've got obviously Buddy McGirt trains guys like Callum Smith, who is obviously at the top end of his division. You've got guys like Janabek, who again is doing unbelievable work at the moment. Does that put any pressure on you as a prospect coming through with the same trainer to reach those levels?
Not at all. It actually does the exact opposite. It shows me that I'm in good hands, and it shows me that I'm surrounded by good people around me that I could look up to and that I can learn from. And that's what I try to do with Coach Buddy. Even when I'm not in fight camp, I always like to be in training camp where I don't have a fight, but someone else has a fight, and I go around with Coach Buddy because I'm his youngest fighter. So I want to pick up. I have a lot of experience that I need to make up because I moved to the US very late into my career, and I need to pick up on a lot of things that I've missed out on. So when he trains Dylan White, I like to go. Callum Smith, I like to go. Dan Aziz, Johnny Beck, all these people, I like to go not to only see how they move inside the ring, but also how they move outside of the ring, who they have around them. And I want to be exposed to the people who they have around them, some key conversations and discussions you have in these camps where you take it with you for life. And I believe that people struggle so much to find a realistic idol in their life because they try to look for someone that is so hard to reach. But sometimes your idols are right next to you. Sometimes your idols are just, if you look over your shoulder, they're right there. And I'm blessed to be in a situation like this. I'm humbled to be in a situation like this where an idol of mine like Buddy McGirt is right there. An idol of mine like Callum Smith, Dan Aziz, Johnny Beck, they're right there. These people are world champions. They've made it. They've been there, done that, and they're all at different phases of their careers. Callum Smith is going for a two-time world champion at two different weight classes. Dan Aziz is chasing his first world title. Johnny Beck just got his first world title. And Dylan White is fighting the best of the best in the heavyweight division. And soon he might even clash with Anthony Joshua again. So you have people who are at different stages of their careers, stages that I wish and I hope and I like the law of attraction. So I'll say that one day I will be at. So it's good to see how they are going to move when they're put in those situations, and I pick up from them. And when I'm put in that same situation, I'm going to do the exact same because they are successful.
Absolutely. And success breeds success, as they say. I just want to say, shout out Dan Aziz, somebody that I've known for 5, 6 years now since he first started in his career to now. And good to see him, obviously, with Buddy and obviously pushing on for world honours. But Zizo, thank you.
Touched down in Florida, Callum and Dan both. They just touched down, and we just met at the gym. It's good to have the family back.
Absolutely. Zizo, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. All the best of luck for the next fight, and we'll speak again after the fight.
Thank you for giving me the platform and getting my story out there. I never get used to this, these moments as a kid I didn't even dare dream of. So I never get used to this. And I just want to say thank you. And I always will be thankful for that.
No, for any time, honestly, anytime.
Thank you.